In the unknown coastal town of Bob's Burgers, there are a wide range of colorful characters. From eccentric landlords and would-be bank robbers to struggling restaurateurs, we get a view of what makes these characters tick. But who is worthy of graduating with honors and who is worthy of wearing a dunce cap? I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is Bob's Burgers characters Dumb to Brilliant. Before we get started though, we will only be covering only a certain number of minor characters in the show, so characters like Gretchen or Randy will not be included. We are also going to be taking into account the actions of the characters in the Bob's Burgers movie to help with this placement. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. Also, we will be mentioning some events from the Bob's Burgers movie for certain characters, so consider this your spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie yet. For our bottom of the barrel entry, we have characters that are severely lacking even basic common sense. These characters are the slow-witted. Okay, we're cheating by including this guy since he has only appeared in one episode so far. But for our gold medal of stupidity, we are awarding it to Sam, the owner of Raptopia from Season 8 Episode 16's episode Are You There, Bob? It's Me, Birthday. While following your dreams is a quality to be admired, Sam definitely should rethink about owning a restaurant. He acts surprised about basic food safety things like not having rodent poop near one's food and storing food at temperatures to make them safe to eat.
I don't understand. I did everything right.
And since Bob gets violently sick as a result of eating a wrap from Sam's shop, and Sam not even being aware that his food was the cause, this restaurant owner's lack of smarts is not only worrying, but also dangerous. Everyone's least favorite man-child is up next, Jimmy Pesto. It's really surprising how this jerk manages to stay afloat. With his horrible food and how he is seen to treat some customers such as farting over the phone at them. We don't blame Bob in the slightest for his negative feelings towards Jimmy. Like we said, this guy is a man-child. Jimmy is constantly making things difficult for the Belchers, such as stealing their Super Bowl commercial idea or writing Bob sucks on a video game leaderboard. While Jimmy's emotional immaturity is his biggest drawback, and going by how he conducts his business otherwise really doesn't give Jimmy that many smart points either. Sergeant Bosco is up next. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Bosco is not good at his job at all. Yeah, he is able to track down a cyber criminal in the episode Boy Watch, but it is pretty obvious what he is up to during his stakeout. When Mickey attempts robbing the bank, Bosco unwisely tries to call his bluff by telling Mickey to shoot some of the hostages.
Go ahead, do it, big man! Shoot a hostage!
Bosco even reveals that he has shot people due to his own mother telling him to do so. Even in the Bob's Burgers movie, Bosco makes the elementary mistake of having all the things that would identify himself as a cop in plain view during a stakeout. We feel so sorry to be giving the next character a ranking this low, but Mickey is coming up next. If we were going to be robbed, we would want it to be done by Mickey. This guy, despite his criminal ways, actually has a pretty good heart. However, Mickey has been shown to be pretty incompetent at whatever he tries. With his initial attempt to rob a bank, Mickey straight up admits that he doesn't know what he is doing, and things really don't get any better for him. Mickey later tries to tunnel his way through the Belcher's restaurant basement in order to try to rob the bank again, both thinking Bob and his family would not notice and that he would not be convicted again.
All right, let's break Bob's fine.
Thankfully, Mickey has seemingly abandoned his criminal ways for the most part, but he is still not the brightest bulb of the bunch. Might seem harsh to put a child here, but as Jocelyn is 18, you'd hope she would be on par with most of her class, but that is just not the case. A stereotypical Valley girl, Jocelyn is rarely shown to think for herself, instead going for whatever option presented to her is popular. When Jocelyn's thought process is shown, however, it doesn't show her in a good light. Like thinking turning popsicles into juice was science and not knowing how a store map at a mall worked. And because she is a follower more than anything, Jocelyn really doesn't think about some of the situations she might be allowing herself to get talked into. Keep in mind though, Jocelyn is still a child, so we are cutting her some slack and hope she wises up in the future. For our next category, we are going through the halls of Wagstaff School and look at some of the kids that attend, as well as some of the other characters who could benefit from some extra studying. This category is the students. Just above her best friend, we have the resident mean girl of Wagstaff, Tammy. Much like her best friend, Tammy is pretty much only interested in being the queen bee amongst the other students.
It doesn't matter if she's out on the town or in on the couch.
And while she is able to manipulate others to her own desires, Tammy's plans really aren't that complex, such as just ditching classes or having younger kids pretend to be her boyfriend. And more often than not, the plans that Tammy does come up with end up barely succeeding or else just totally falling apart. She is even shown to be easily fooled by Louise by being told that a walkie-talkie was broken again right after she fixed it. Here's to hoping both Tammy and Jocelyn benefit from a couple more years at Wagstaff. Probably the nicest motorcycle gang leader and his partner take this spot, Critter and Mudflap. Unlike most of the members of the One-Eyed Snakes, both Critter and Mudflap are seen to actually be friendly and decent people. Critter in particular has the knowledge of how to convert a bumper car into a go-kart and rebuild motorcycles from various parts. But both are shown to also not have much common sense at times, like mentioning making drugs in front of children. While these two have a good relationship with both each other and the Belchers, we also gotta say that Critter and Mudflap could put a bit more thought into some of their actions. Another Wagstaff student is coming up, Jimmy Pesto Jr. Where Jimmy Jr. is concerned, for the most part, he acts just like a normal student. He is a bit of a narcissist though, placing high value on his own dancing skills and tends to get extremely jealous of Tina at times when she expresses interests in other boys. That being said, however, Jimmy Jr. does seem to do okay in school and really doesn't have any particularly brilliant or dumb moments to his name. He can be lazy at times and not want to put in the work in projects at times, but really, which kid, and if we're being honest with ourselves, adult doesn't have moments like this? But credit to Jimmy Jr. for being seemingly more intelligent than his father. And here's to hoping things only continue to go well where Jimmy Jr.'s development goes. Much like Tammy and Jocelyn, we are putting Jimmy Jr.'s best friend in our next slot, Zeke. Probably the most enthusiastic member out of the friend group, Zeke is seen to be kind of a troubled kid, acting out at times but being a good person at heart. Like Jocelyn though, Zeke is sometimes shown to kind of only do what Jimmy Jr. is interested in. However, after Bob has him start cooking in the episode Bob and Deliver, Zeke discovers that he has a talent for cooking, as Bob praises his soup as perfect. Zeke has also been shown to have pretty good emotional intelligence in certain situations despite his young age. Regardless if Zeke continues to hone his cooking skills for the future or not, we feel pretty comfortable with whatever path he takes. Zeke will have the smarts to eventually succeed. Our first member of the fish odor family is next, Felix. Shown to be extremely temperamental to the point of random emotional outbursts, Felix has been living in his older brother's shadow his entire life and does anything he can to stand out. His plans are always thought through though, often leading him to react violently when they fail. He attempted to murder both Bob and his brother when his plans of selling off Wonder Wharf to build condos failed, for example. In the Bob's Burgers movie, Felix, as well as Calvin, believes an old carnival ride can help them flee the country by using it to travel underwater. When you come right down to it, Felix is an opportunist. but also either puts in minimal effort or has the plans blow up in his face. The Wagstaff school guidance counselor, Mr. Front, is next on our list. While Mr. Front does seem to genuinely care about the kids that attend Wagstaff, he is also shown to either be easily tricked or manipulated. To say that Louise can often wrap Mr. Front around her finger at times in order to get him to do what she wants is a justified statement. Honestly though, Mr. Front is his own worst enemy at times, as his inflated ego often backfires while he thinks he is helping the students. Mr. Front isn't the worst counselor out there, but we feel like if he paid attention to the students of Wagstaff more, rather than focusing on methods that don't work, he would absolutely learn a thing or two. Finally, we arrive at the Belcher family, with Gene. Despite being the middle child, who are sometimes overlooked, Gene by far has the most enthusiasm compared to his sisters. And while we admire Gene's attitude, as well as his creativity, he also seems to be the Belcher that gives things the least amount of thought at times. We aren't calling Gene stupid though, far from it. He is shown to be wise beyond his years in a lot of episodes, and acts as a positive influence on both his sisters and some of the other students at Wagstaff. Like his mother though, Gene can be impulsive, and his plans sometimes cause trouble for either him or those around him. Right behind her son, we have the second Belcher with the matriarch, Linda. It goes without saying, Linda loves her family and would do anything for them. On the flip side of that coin, however, shows that Linda also is a spotlight hog at times.
If you're not real.
During episodes Hawk and Chick, Linda tries to compete with Tina on who had the most lines when dubbing the film, and lives out her desire to be a cheerleader through Gene in the episode Gene It On. She is also seen to sometimes lack common sense, like going on obvious private property and not thinking of the potential consequences and trying to force herself on others. Linda is a great wife and mother, and keeps her family grounded, no doubt. But we also think she could give some things more thought and not be as impulsive at times. Friend of the Belchers and frequent customer at the restaurant, Teddy, is next. To say that Teddy is an unofficial member of the Belcher family is a pretty accurate statement. While his attitude can be childish at times, as well as ignorant, Teddy has a good head on his shoulders. He takes his job at being a handyman seriously, such as going so far as to build a food cart from scratch for Bob and Linda in the Bob's Burgers movie, and being able to restore a boat by himself. But in addition to Teddy's childish behavior now and then, he can be easily taken in. A perfect example is Teddy refusing to take his money back after Tina admits to scamming him in the episode Tweentrepreneurs. While Teddy does have his faults, the fact he is more than competent in his work and more often than not is seen to think things through lands him a pretty solid spot here. For our next couple of entries, these characters seem to both have a pretty good grasp on things, as well as doing some pretty good critical thinking. These characters are the top of the class. To start off this category, we have the eldest Belcher sibling, Tina. More often than not, she is seen as the voice of reason for her siblings. Tina is the sibling that seems to do the most critical thinking in situations.
The newest member of the famous junior lifeguards.
Rather, she is looking for a backdoor way to solve a problem, or trying to discourage both other kids and some adults from doing activities that could result in negative consequences. Tina can be short-sighted about some things though, like believing watching The Sound of Music would make her a perfect Julie Andrew-esque babysitter. But she is also highly perceptive, and even at tough times is willing to think things through, often leading to a positive end result. And let's keep the theme of oldest siblings being in this category, with Calvin Fishoder taking this next spot. So it kinda goes without saying, if your last name is Fishoder, you are going to be lacking morals. Luckily for Calvin though, and unluckily for pretty much everyone else, he makes up for this with a pretty good amount of smarts. Unfortunately, he doesn't use them in the best way possible, such as constantly cutting corners in his business practices without being caught, and successfully running some other, less than legal businesses. This can be attributed to his cousin's help from time to time. But Calvin was also able to help the Belcher kids and their friends in an attempt to pull off a heist at Family Fun Time and knowing what was needed to successfully pull it off. He does have a couple of drawbacks, but it is more likely for this seedy landlord to succeed through his business knowledge for better or worse. Finally, we have the patriarch of the Belcher family, Bob. Probably the unluckiest business owner in the show, Bob has faced numerous setbacks throughout the series. But even though Linda often helps keep him grounded, Bob has done his best to keep his restaurant afloat. Bob's emotional intelligence, coupled with his patience and acceptance of most people, speaks volumes about his character. Bob often tends to think most things through and does his best to overcome whatever issue he faces. In the Bob's Burgers movie, after his family are buried alive, Bob comes up with the idea that is able to free them. While Bob does get depressed now and then to the numerous setbacks, Bob is known to do a fair amount of both out-of-the-box and critical thinking in order to work through the problem, either by himself or with help. And finally, we are going to be looking at the last two characters on our list. These characters are the smartest of the bunch. These characters are graduating with honors. First of the two people in this category, we have both the cousin and lawyer of Felix and Calvin, as well as the main villain of the Bob's Burgers movie, Grover Fishoder. Alright, it would be safe to assume that Grover has saved Calvin's butt more than a few times in the past. We don't know if this was accidental or not, however. We do know that Grover has been plotting to try and get control of Wonder Wharf since 6 years ago, according to the Bob's Burgers movie, by murdering Cotton Candy Dan and trying to implicate Calvin for it. And he does seem to be several steps ahead of his more eccentric cousins in previous appearances in the show as well, seen advising Felix and Calvin about business practices. Grover, despite what he claims in his musical number in the movie, is a pretty dastardly person, but at least he knows his stuff. Even though she's one of the youngest characters in Bob's Burgers, we are giving the top prize in our list to the final member of the Belcher family, Louise. Even though Louise is scheming on a regular basis to manipulate or trick others, such as her siblings or Mr. Frond, into her plans, Louise has also been shown to use her smarts for good. Sure, much like Jean and Tina, Louise might not be the best Wagstaff student, but outside the classroom, Louise has been able to pull off schemes such as convincing an aquarium owner to commit tax fraud and creating an underground casino in her family's basement.
The meat grinder is about to grind up a whale.
The crowning achievement to Louise's name, however, comes from the Bob's Burgers movie where she is able to solve the murder of Cotton Candy Dan. And keep in mind, Louise is only 9 years old during all of these events. And we have no doubt whatsoever that things will only improve for Louise. With that, our class is concluded. Who do you think the smartest Bob's Burgers characters are? Let us know in the comments below. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our other Wicked Binge videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.